Hello, and welcome to the Consumer VC. I am your host, Mike Gelb, and on this show, we talk about the world of venture capital and innovation in both consumer technology and consumer products. If you're enjoying this content, you could subscribe to my newsletter, theconsumervc.substack.com, to get each new episode and more consumer news delivered straight to your inbox. Our guest is Ksenia Yudina, the founder and CEO of UNest, the first mobile app that makes it easier than ever for parents to open a simple and affordable tax-advantaged investment account for their kids. Ksenia has a pretty fascinating story. We talk about how she immigrated to the US, transitioned careers from real estate to finance, as well as how she realized a lot of new parents are very motivated to invest in their kids, but don't really know where to go. There wasn't really an easy way to do it. So without further ado, here she is. Ksenia, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much, Mike.
I really appreciate you coming on the show. So I know you moved to the United States when you were 18. What brought you to the US and what was kind of your first American experience?
Yeah, so I was a student and the idea was to come to the United States to work for 3 months during the summer at some, lower paid jobs like McDonald's and what have you. And then the idea was that I was supposed to go back. What happened in reality, the first state that I visited was Florida. So my plane landed in Florida. I looked around and I was like, wow, the weather seems amazing. I love those palm trees and ocean and people are smiling at me. And, everything is just so perfect. So why would I go back to the country that, in my hometown, we had, winter for 9 months straight. So it was a very, drastic experience, weather-wise and just how people treated me. Obviously, I was always very focused on education and wanted to build great things in life and wanted to have successful careers. So those education opportunities were super attractive to me. So I called my parents and I was like, okay, guys, I'm not going back. So I was like, look, I want to give it a try and just build my future in this country.
That's awesome. That's really cool. And so you were 3 months in Florida, right?
2 months in Florida and then I moved to LA.
So why did you move to LA? Why did you come west? I'm in Los Angeles as well. I'm just very curious.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So my first destination was Key West, which you may know, it's a small island in Florida. It's not even like Miami, not like a large city. And of course, you cannot really go to great university. You can't get a good job when you are on the island. So I did have some friends living in LA, and they basically said, hey, come over, check it out. We're gonna find you, the first apartment. We want to help you with job. And I was like, okay, great. I have some connections. The city, seems great. Also highlighted that the weather is much better than Florida. I wasn't a big fan of humidity, so it was just a perfect match. I came and I never went back.
Got it. Well, yeah, LA in California, if you're not a fan of humidity, I'm from the East Coast, I'm from Washington, D.C., and it gets quite humid there. So it's nice to be in a place that doesn't have that humidity, even though I also love the East Coast. So you were attending Cal State Northridge, is that right?
That's right, for undergrad.
One of your first exposures into business was in real estate, is that right?
That's right. So my first job was actually at a mortgage company. My first real job was at a mortgage company in LA. And of course, I was lucky to join in 2007, right before the financial crisis hit. But it was a great learning experience as well. So when I was at a mortgage company, I realized that I actually enjoy the finance part of business more than I like real estate. So I got my agent's license. I went to CSUN to get my undergrad in finance. But when I graduated in 2009, it was the worst time in history to get a job in finance. The industry was just falling apart, and in New York, the companies were closing, people were losing jobs left and right. So I had to kind of pivot back into real estate. I got my broker's license and I got into that business, specializing in distressed properties, and I made that my career pivot for the next next 4 years. So my passion still was like in investment management and finance. So I had to kind of like find my way back, pivot back. And the way I did it is, of course, through education. So I went to UCLA Anderson to get my MBA. And in parallel, I was pursuing my CFA designation. So that was my, like a lot of effort to make it back to finance, but it all, paid off.
After you got your CFA certificate, did you then work in corporate finance for a while? Or when did you think about having like the entrepreneurial bug?
While I was at Anderson, I actually did not even specialize in entrepreneurship. Like I didn't take any classes on venture capital or business plan development. Kind of skipped it all because I was thinking that my dream is to just get a corporate job and to build a successful career on that side of things. And post Anderson, I ended up at Capital Group, which is a parent company of American funds that manages over 2 trillion right now. Again, one of the dream jobs after business school. So I ended up there. I spent 4 wonderful years working on the private wealth side of things, just helping wealth individuals with financial planning, wealth strategy analysis, asset allocation, all of that, and finished my CFA when I was at Capital Group. And then the way I transitioned to entrepreneurship and decided to pursue this new journey, just based on a lot of things that I observed in the industry as an insider, and being on the youngest side of financial advisors, a lot of things just became very clear to me that large institutions. So first of all, they are not great innovators. Large financial institutions, they moving very slowly. No matter how wonderful they are, it's hard to innovate. I was trying to work on a lot of projects, and every project would take me a year, 2 years to bring to life. So then I started observing a lot of interesting things, at Capital. So first, I realized that, hey, number one priority for all of our clients was investing for their children, right? So all conversations were always about college savings plans, custodial accounts, trust. So it was never about their retirement or the brokerage accounts. The second thing I realized is that a lot of my own friends who graduate from top schools like UCLA with a lot of student debt, they reached out to me asking for a quick and easy way to get started with investment accounts for children. They did not react well when I introduced this 16 pages long financial application from American funds. And I was like, look, this is one of the best 529 plans in the industry. Just go fill out this paperwork. I'll help you on the back end. And just realized that's not really how this new generation of parents, of investors doing things. A lot of feedback I got was, hey, we all on mobile. We use Robinhood, we use Venmo, Mint, you name it, right? All those mobile applications to manage all financial aspects of their lives. And when I looked around, I realized, well, there is nothing mobile-based technology enabled for parents to invest and save for their children's future. So huge opportunity. There is a lot of demand. It's one of the biggest pain points for the consumers. And at the same time, 70% of people in this country don't even know that those accounts exist, custodial accounts, 529s. So huge unawareness, financial literacy is super low. But in my mind, it presented a huge opportunity to build something with technology.
Why did you even want to take the release? As you know, entrepreneurship, it's pretty tough, pretty hard things to do. What was that moment like when you realized entrepreneurship was the actual avenue for me?
Yeah, so I did a couple of things when I was going through this decision-making process, whether I stay at Capital versus pursue this new journey. I basically started with a spreadsheet of all pros and cons for both opportunities. And I realized that pros of taking a chance and try to build it, the pros outnumbered cons. And then for every kind of disadvantage or con, I was trying to come up with a hedge. So again, being very analytical, I was, okay, what if it doesn't work out? What's the worst case that can happen with me? Okay, I can go back to the corporate, because now no one's going to take away my credentials, my education, my experience, all of that. And can I sustain to live on a very low base salary for the next year or two? Yes, I can, because I have safety net. I have a husband who is very supportive of this. So at the end of the day, what I decided to myself is that if I don't give it a try, I'm going to regret all my life, right? And I'm still young to recover from any type of failure, right? So that was my thinking. But opportunity was just too big, and too exciting for me to pass on it.
I love the reason why you wanted to explore and it obviously became an entrepreneur. How did you think about UNest in that capacity when you were starting to figure out, okay, maybe there's a new way to distribute these financial products through mobile apps?
Yeah, so there was like a lot that I already had, right? The expertise on the business front, where I was able to do like a lot of competitive analysis and just like analytically think about market opportunity, all of that. And of course, having finance background, the domain expertise was super necessary. But to your point, I wasn't a technical person, and I realized that I would need to partner with someone on the technical front to help me just bring it to life and leverage digital marketing channels to make the solution super scalable and accessible to wide population of people. So the way I approach this is I actually started going to a lot of networking events and just hanging out with people in tech community and telling them about my idea and mission and the problem I'm trying to solve. So the cool thing was that I found the idea resonated with a lot of people. They loved the mission. They loved the opportunity to solve this huge problem. A lot of people related because they had student loans or they had kids, and they were like, oh wow, you're building something great. So that gave me a lot of encouragement. And then that network led me to finding my CTO. First he became a tech advisor, Steve Buchanan. He had experience on both startups and also large corporations. He knew a lot about how to build fintech architecture. And obviously at the beginning I couldn't pay him any salary because I was still bootstrapped and in the very early stages. So he became an advisor for equity and a little bit of cash. And once we secured the first round of capital, he jumped on board in a full-time CTO position. And pretty much the same thing happened on the marketing front. I realized that, hey, I need someone with a great track record in fintech who knows how to bring fintech solutions to market. So first I got in touch with Peter Mansfield, who was known in LA as a fintech expert. He was actually the second guy in the company called Marqeta, which, as you know, just went IPO last year. And he had a series of successful fintech exits. So someone recommended, I think few people recommended for me to talk to Peter. We connected. He loved the mission. He had 3 kids that he had to put through college. So he totally recognized the problem I'm solving. So he jumped on board and helped me with the go-to-market strategy and helped with the first round of funding. And then at the time we were closing the seed round, the last person who kind of joined this core executive team was Mike Van Kampen. So he came from Acorns and he was in charge of user acquisition and growth at Acorns. So he became our first COO and head of growth, and he knew everything about digital marketing channels. He brought that expertise to the team.
Walk me through what data points you had as proof points to investors that this is a large market. There is very much a need for this market. This is solving a real pain since you were still in beta.
Definitely showcasing that we already built something that's working, and for the investors being able to test it and create accounts for their kids. And by the way, the investors that decided to put a check in the company, they all were parents, right? So first of all, the idea really resonated with them because they had kids. Second, we already had 1,000 users on this iOS beta version, and we knew the unit economics, right? We were talking very confidently about our user acquisition numbers, our LTV, we could predict. So basically the idea was if we can get this first round of capital, we can extrapolate it and achieve explosive growth because we already know that demand is there, market is there, people really craving for this kind of solution, and we already proved that unit economics work.
Got it. No, that's helpful. And so you already had early adopters when you were pitching to investors that were using the beta version of the app. I mean, even just backing up one bit more, how were you able to get early adopters to come on the app, interact with the app, and obviously sell them financial products?
Yeah, so the early adopters came primarily from 3 sources. First was my UCLA Anderson network. So I reached out to the mailing list and got some early adopters there. That was very easy. Again, a lot of people who have student debt and have kids solution resonates. We also went to some social media like Facebook groups where parents talked about kids and asked for the beta testers there, and just organically through the app. Right, you can bid on some search terms in the App Store to attract people who are interested in the solution.
Talk to me a little bit about the monetization model. How do you make money, and did you start charging like day one?
So we made solution pretty much free for the first cohort of beta users, and then when we went public, it was paid version day one. What's important to understand about the platform and what we offer to the users is that we offer a few things. First is ability to set up investment account for kids in 5 minutes. Second is ability to get gifts from friends and family into your child's account. And third is getting the rewards from our brand partners every time you make a purchase, right? Like something falls into your UNest account. So for the access to the platform, we charge a subscription fee of $3 per month. So that's the main way we as a business make money. Another way is through partnerships with brands, because again, every time when someone opens account, let's say you subscribe with Disney Plus, right? We would get a bounty from Disney of $20 and we would split it with you 50-50. So we would keep some of this monetization and some of this will fall into the child's account. We also just became a broker dealer. And that opens up a lot of additional revenue streams for us. So again, super time-consuming and expensive process for any fintech company. It took us over 10 months to become a broker dealer, but eventually, once we launch this new product called UNest Legacy that will allow parents to trade individual stocks and crypto, we will have additional revenue streams from there.
That's amazing. And I'm also impressed with investing in crypto because, obviously crypto, there's a lot of highs and a lot of lows in crypto. Has that been a demand from parents for wanting crypto? How accepted is crypto from the parents' point of view in your mind?
One thing that we did last year is we sent a survey to the entire user base to understand what parents would like to see more on UNest platform. So it wasn't just a decision that we made in isolation. And we gave several options. First was trading individual stocks and crypto for the child's in the child's account. Another one was life insurance, then secured credit card, and there were a couple other things. And crypto and individual stocks was number one with it was just overwhelmingly high demand from our user base. So the second thing realization that if you look at what's going on in the news cycles in the market, we kind of realized that hey, in 2021 crypto reached the mainstream adoption. I would argue that now more people heard about crypto versus some traditional asset classes like mutual funds and ETFs, right? And even having casual conversations with some of my friends who are all parents, I just started doing it an exercise. I started asking them at the dinner table, hey, if you could buy a stock and hold it in your child's account for the next 10 years, what type of stock would it be? And the response is we wouldn't buy stock, we would buy crypto, right? Because again, what is the asset class that is perceived by public right now as the asset class that has the greatest potential to appreciate in the next 10, 15, 20 years? So a lot of parents think that it's cryptocurrency versus stocks or bonds.
That's fascinating. And of course, these accounts too are designed to pay for or contribute to kids' education, right? College education. How do you also think about the future of education? Because things are changing. Maybe in 18 years or so, kids might not be going to college as much, or there might be different educational alternatives. How do you also think about this as a CEO of UNest?
It's important to know the story of the company, right? We launched a solution on 529s, right? So 529 accounts, tax-free accounts that are meant just for education, college or other educational expenses. And in the middle of COVID, we actually made a pivot to a different type of solution called Atma Agma or UTMA that's more flexible. And that pivot was caused by two big drivers. First of all, we realized that trying to build something on the with 529 industry can be pretty complex and challenging because how antiquated the industry is. Early days, we had to all of the apps looked very sleek and easy on the front end. On the back end, we still had to do a lot of things like manually and like faxing things versus, using APIs. And then during COVID, like this feedback that you just mentioned, that, hey, parents have different priorities for their kids. They want more flexibility. They're not sure that kids will even go to college. Or some parents think that maybe like the kids will become influencers or prioritizing buying the first house. That feedback was just overwhelming. So what we decided to do is to introduce this other account type, and we switched all of our users into this new account type, which is also investment account, also tax advantaged. And tax advantages are pretty equivalent to 529s, but it provides much more flexibility in what you can save and invest for. So you're not getting penalized if for some reason you don't spend the money on college or educational expenses compared to 529. And also, to your earlier point, I'll just highlight that 529 is also pretty restrictive in selection of investment options. So you can pretty much invest only in mutual funds and ETFs, versus in UTMA or Atma account, you have more flexibility. You can actually invest in alternative investments. You can invest in something like crypto, and then you can buy individual stocks.
That's fascinating. And in 529, the money, when you pull out the money, it has to go towards education. Is that right?
That's right. You get this tax-free growth, right, at the expense of, if you don't use it for college or you don't use it for education, you lose all tax advantages and you're actually penalized by 10% on the earnings portion. And that's basically government's way to prevent you for using money on something else, similar to what they do on retirement plans. So they're very restrictive.
What are some other parts of your business that was affected either positively or negatively due to COVID?
Yeah, overall, COVID was a positive for the company. One thing that was interesting is that we had a board meeting right before COVID hit, where we showed the board our exponential growth after we transitioned to UTMA, and we were very excited about going to the market to raise our Series A. And pretty much, the very next week, the world shut down. We could not go to the Bay Area, to East Coast to meet with those investors that were very interested in meeting us. So we had to kind of pivot in our fundraising strategy. And the cool thing is that Anthos Capital led our Series A round. They already put a small check in our seed round, so they knew the company, they knew our progress, and they were just very excited to put more money and become a lead investor. The cool thing is that Anthos is LA-based, and UNest is probably the only LA-based portfolio company for them right now. So we have a very family type of relationship. So that was a pivot. And another interesting thing that happened during COVID, again, first, you don't understand how you're going to hire all these people, right? And build culture, because you're pretty small company, you're growing fast, you just raised, the new round of capital, you need to deploy it, and you need to hire talent, and you need to find new people. How do you do it? But what we also realized is that COVID gave us an amazing opportunity to hire outside of LA and outside of California and get access to amazing talent from Utah, Colorado, and even other countries by transitioning, the entire operations to remote work environment.
What is your approach to customer acquisition strategy, since now you have a fresh pot of funding and looking to grow?
Yeah, so about 40% of this round is meant for marketing. And on the marketing front, we are doing several things. So paid user acquisition worked extremely well for the company in the past, and affiliate marketing channels, so partnering with other bloggers and other fintechs, to share the partnerships there. And of course, as we mature, we also have more brand presence and more organic growth as well. And another thing that we implemented right now, so after we raised Series B, we brought on board John Walker as a president. So he is serial entrepreneur who launched and exited 3 companies. He spent about 10 years in venture capital. So he is pretty much spearheading this new product, UNest Legacy, which will have this crypto component. And again, like because there is so much hype and excitement about this crypto component, in addition to growing our user base through those different marketing channels, we also will be launching the waiting list for the crypto product and building like additional user base through that.
Nice. What are some other ways that you've been able to learn what products or even what features? Because I love this idea that you mentioned and also been able to execute on, where you're taking what customers want and then you're producing products for customers. Are there any other examples that you have where you've been able to do this?
Yes, so actually our UNest Rewards engine, which, like I just mentioned, the partnerships with 120 brands, also gives us a lot of insight and data about what customers really use and what they want. So I would highlight that one of the most successful partnerships so far was with life insurance companies. And I guess it's also no-brainer because there is a lot of overlap. When you become a parent, 2 things you automatically think about is I need an investment account for my child, a college savings account, and I need life insurance because what if something happens to me? So a lot of overlap and huge popularity on the platform for those type of products. So again, as we think, okay, what is that next thing we want to build or who do we want to partner with? We're trying to kind of double down on what already works on UNest Rewards.
What are you looking to accomplish in 2022 and beyond? I'd love to learn more about the vision for UNest.
Oh, absolutely. So for 2022, I would say that definitely the digital assets will become one of the main focuses for the company. So not only the crypto that we already talked about, but also how can we explore NFTs, for example, to allow friends and family, instead of just gifting cash into the child's account, gift NFTs. Or how do we explore some staking and yield from cryptocurrencies to make more rewards and create more opportunities for parents to easily grow that investment account for their child. So definitely for 2022, that becomes a big focus for the company. And another big focus, ESG portfolios, which we will launch pretty soon. So again, our audience consists of millennials who are very environmentally conscious and they want to invest into things that matter to them. So again, we've heard the feedback from the market, we've heard trends in the market, and we will be launching a set of ESG portfolios this year as well. And for the future, so one thing that kind of excites me about the solution and what we're building is the opportunities are limitless in terms of where we can go next. So we definitely have plans for international expansion, and we want to build global product because from what we learned, currently there is nothing like this exists in Asia or Europe. Right, and typically companies or startups in Asia and Europe, they try to copy something that's been already successful in the United States. So, for example, a lot of companies are building neobanks or they're building Robinhood 2.0 versus, we have this mission of regardless of economic background, geography, religion, race, all parents supposed to have an easy way to save and invest for their kids' future. Where can we go with the solution? Any country.
Amazing. That's a very grand mission. That's awesome. What's one book that inspired you personally and one book that inspired you professionally?
If I talk about the startup related books, I really enjoyed the book called From Zero to One. And most recently, Art Thing About Hard Things. Probably one of my favorites. I have a lot of quotes from that book. It totally resonated with me. Another one is Art of the Start. And I'm sorry, I'm quoting too many books probably that relate to startups versus me personally. On the personal front, just because I love reading about investing and I admire a couple people in that space. So one being Warren Buffett and another one is Howard Marks, founder of Oak Tree Capital. So loved the book that he's written a few years ago called The Most Important Thing.
Amazing. That's awesome. Really excited to add these to our book list. This is great. My final question for you is, what's one piece of advice that you have for founders?
I would say one piece of advice I give at any point of your startup journey, of your entrepreneurial journey, is just do not quit. and be persistent, because startup is a set of like challenges, unlimited challenges, and you will face obstacles, especially the seed round. But I believe that any outcome, especially for the first time founder, is okay outcome, whether it's partnership or exit or acquisition by another company. What's not okay is not trying to push through to see what's on the other side, and persistence definitely makes a big difference for startup founders.
I totally agree. Ksenia, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for joining me today.
No, thank you so much, Mike, for inviting. Yeah, I really enjoyed the conversation, enjoyed the dialogue.
And there you have it. It was so amazing chatting with Ksenia, and I really enjoyed hearing her story. I hope you all enjoyed it as well. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd love it if you'd write a review on the Apple Podcasts. You're also welcome to follow me, your host, Mike, on Twitter @MikeGelb, and also follow for episode announcements @ConsumerVC. Thanks for listening, everyone.